welcome to another writing vlog. If you're new here, my name is Stephanie and I am writing my very first book, and currently I am in the middle, or in the beginning actually, of draft 3. And I just got back from a really amazing trip from Scotland, and it's been a few days and it's time for me to get back into my writing routine. I did write my book in Scotland, and if you want to check out that video, I'll link it down below. And I wrote a lot on the airplane, and then I came back and it has been just trying to get acclimated to life. I haven't written at all in like 3 days, and I'm pretty much settled now, and it's time to get back into the swing of things. Today is going to be a really nice day to write. I am experiencing a coastal storm right now, and it is going to be raining and windy, and it's gonna be raining a lot. So you'll probably hear the rain while I'm talking, or the wind, and maybe in some B-roll. In about an hour, it's gonna rain about ½ an inch in an hour, and that's a lot. And I love rainy days because it means I get to stay inside and write, and it just makes the writing environment so much more cozy because you can snuggle up in a blanket and write and listen to the rainfall, and it's really lovely. Let's talk about where I am right now in the book. As I said, I am currently writing draft 3, and I am on chapter 6. It is time for me to start my second pass of chapter 6 because that's what I'm doing. I do a first pass where I just rewrite the chapter and I include what I think needs to be included, and I rewrite things that don't make sense, and then I do a second pass where I just kind of fine-tune everything, fix any grammar errors, and just think in general, does the character arc make sense? Does the plot move along? Things like that. And I'll be honest, chapter 6 has been a little bit of a struggle. I was struggling with it on the plane. The reason for this is when I was reading draft 2 and kind of figuring out what do I need to fix, I realized that this part of the book, like chapters 5 through 8-ish, they didn't really progress in the way that I wanted them to. I think they felt a little flat, honestly. And so I decided to put the idea of my character having some kind of internal debate. And previously she had this debate, but it was very short and she just went in a certain direction. And now I want to draw out this debate a little longer. I think it makes sense. And I think it adds a little bit of tension and it makes the scenes more interesting. But since I haven't written this part of it before, it was a little bit more difficult to kind of write this stuff in. Additionally, with chapter 6, I started to combine it with chapter 7 a little bit. And that's just solely because I think I had 2 scenes that were very similar, and I thought it would make more sense to have one scene and kind of incorporate all that information, or most of it, into one scene. One thing I have noticed as I've been working on draft 3 is I have been paying a lot more attention to what is going on in the other chapters around the one I'm working on. Previously, when I was doing draft 1 and 2, it was basically like I planned out my chapters and I said, okay, chapter 1 is this, I wrote it and it was done. Then I moved on to chapter 2, I wrote it, it was done. And I was really focusing on what was happening in that scene, and I'm not really thinking about how it related to other scenes. And this time around, I'm reviewing the chapters before and after as I write the current chapter. Okay, there's a police car coming. We're gonna pause. It was an ambulance, my mistake. What was I saying? I think what I was saying is when I'm working on the current chapter, I really take a look at the chapters before and after, and I say, am I writing the same thing? Am I repeating anything? Because I kind of found when I was reading draft 2 that I was being a little bit repetitive. And what this has led to is me really reviewing like multiple chapters in real time. And I have been doing a lot more cut and paste of chapters than I thought. Right now, I am doing chapter 6. It's really short, and I've taken parts of chapter 7 and moved it into chapter 6. But I think it's a good thing because the themes are still there. What I want to say is still there. I just need to rearrange it in a way that makes sense. So that is gonna be my focus today, working on chapter 6, and then eventually at some point today I will move on to rewriting chapter 7. I am taking a break probably this afternoon from writing so I can work on YouTube. I am currently editing my video of my trip to Scotland, but my focus will be on writing because I want to get back on track with writing. Going to Scotland was amazing, and I'm so glad I did it, and I got to work on my book there, but I didn't really have as much of a routine because I was doing a bunch of stuff while I was there. So I want to get back into this routine and build like a consistent schedule again for me to get used to writing and get in the zone a little bit easier. That means it's time for me to get writing. I'm gonna get cozy and sit on the couch and cuddle up and work on my book. Chapter 6 is done. I'm really happy about it. It's at around 1,700 words, which is on the lighter side, but I have a feeling I may go back and add to it. I did read ahead and I looked at both chapter 7 and 8. And I think what I'm going to end up doing for chapter 7 is kind of, I don't know if this does make sense, but switch chapters 7 and 8. So chapter 8 will become chapter 7 and chapter 7 will become chapter 8. Obviously, I'm going to have to change things a little bit so it makes sense in terms of the timeline, but I just think those two scenes, the way I have them, it makes more sense if I switch them. I read what I had wrote in draft 2 and I was just kind of playing around in my head with, okay, what if I put these things in chapter 7 and these things in chapter 8? And I think chapter 7 and 8 will take a little bit more time to write than normal just because I'm going to be rearranging them heavily. And then combined with chapter 6, I think these 3 chapters, I'm going to end up doing a little bit of world building drop. Not like overly, but it's a good place to insert the world building. And I need to figure out exactly when and how much world building and all that stuff. And again, that does take some thought. But I feel like I'm at a good stopping point because I just finished chapter 6 and then I can move on to chapter 7 tonight. And this afternoon, I'm going to work on YouTube, hopefully make a lot of progress on my Scotland video. And then it's supposed to be sunny later this afternoon. We'll see if it is. I may go for a walk and run an errand or two. We'll see how the weather is. But I do need to get out of my apartment. I've been pretty much in my apartment just trying to get everything settled after coming back from my trip, and I need to start going out again. Anyways, I'm gonna get into my video. I want to make a lot of progress on it, and I will check back in with you later tonight and tell you how my writing is going after I finish working on chapter 7. Well, I've had a very busy day. I spent honestly about 4 hours working on my YouTube video this afternoon. It was a lot longer than I wanted to spend on it, but I have to get through it. I have, just for reference, I have about 140 clips for my Scotland video. And normally when I do a vlog, I have like 15 to 20 clips. But I did get a significant portion of it done, but it's still not done. And for my writing, I actually did a lot for writing too. So I am about in the middle of chapter 7, and this chapter has proven to be even more complicated than I thought. As I was reviewing the chapters that come after chapter 7, I was looking for particular parts of a scene to pull into chapter 7. Like I knew what it was, I just didn't know where it was in my story. Turns out it's in chapter 9. So now I'm going through 3 chapters at once, trying to sort of condense them all. And it's the right thing to do as far as my story goes, but it's just a lot of work trying to like cut and paste 3 chapters worth of material and make it all cohesive and make sense and flow. And it's just a lot of work, but I'm making my way through it. I did cut about half of the original chapter 7. It's just gone. It's not relevant to the story anymore. We'll see what happens tomorrow as I move more through chapter 7. I think chapters 8 and 9 are going to end up being just one chapter. I'm not quite sure how to formulate that yet. I want to see how I finish up chapter 7 before I really understand chapters 8 and 9, but for the amount of stuff that I'm pulling out of both chapters 8 and 9, there's not enough for 2 chapters. So I'm probably gonna have to figure out a way to condense that. For word counts, I wrote 1,800 words today. That's really good. I'm really impressed with that. That's actually my highest word count day so far on draft 2. And I really felt like I made a lot of progress in terms of moving through chapters and understanding what parts I'm keeping and what parts I'm not. And I felt like I was moving through chapter 7 a lot more quickly. It may be because I did keep a large portion of the dialogue and stuff, like I didn't change it. But I'm really happy with it, and I feel like I moved quickly through things today as opposed to like other days where I've worked on draft 3. It's gonna be it for tonight. I will pick this back up tomorrow. I haven't decided my schedule yet. I will decide it tomorrow morning. I've had a very long day at the computer and I need a tiny break before I go to bed, so I'll see you tomorrow. Well, my writing routine is not routining. It has been a very different kind of day. In terms of my routine, I wanted to write for like an hour in the morning and then an hour or 2 in the evening and do that consistently every day. Yesterday I did great. Today I did not. Basically, when I sat down to write this morning, I had 2 things on my mind. One was the Scotland YouTube video I'm editing, and the other was my writing. And yesterday when I left off editing my video, I still had and still felt like I had a lot of work to do. This is a very complicated video for me, and there's a lot that went into it, and there was still so much more that I needed to do. And so this morning, that was on my mind. I knew if I sat down and wrote, I would not be focused and I would be distracted from writing, and I wouldn't have that clear, like, I don't know, when I write I get like a tunnel vision almost, where I'm just super focused on what I'm writing. And I knew that if I had this YouTube video hanging over me, I wouldn't be able to do it. So I said, okay, let me work on the YouTube video. And then I worked on it for so long this morning, I almost finished, and I decided to carry on in the afternoon and work on it in the afternoon and finish it. It's done, thank goodness. And I was so relieved when it was done, because then I could completely focus on writing. And that's what I did this evening. I started chapter 8, and I honestly can't really say where I'm at in this chapter, because I'm taking parts of chapter 8, 9, and 10 and combining them into one chapter. And so it's very, very complicated, and I'm having to constantly refer back to these chapters and say, okay, I want to keep this and I don't want to keep this. And I'm just trying to figure out how to merge them. Like, when does a character enter a scene and how do you transition from one scene to the next? It requires a lot of thought, so I haven't been doing as much typing this evening as I have been reading and thinking. One thing I did notice though, which was really exciting, was I am sticking to my chapter by chapter outline. And before I started draft 3, I made a chapter by chapter outline, which detailed everything that was happening in each chapter. I use my outline to keep track of what I'm doing as I'm writing, but then also for planning purposes. When I'm coming up on a new chapter, I like to read it to make sure I put in everything I need to put in that chapter. And I have not added a single chapter, and I have not deleted a single chapter. And I've stuck to it. It is, so far, my outline is exactly how it's supposed to be, or how I planned it before I started draft 3. And this is very different from draft 2. In draft 2, I was adding chapters. I think I added 10 chapters over the course of writing draft 2. And so far I haven't added any. So it's great, because I really do want to get into a good writing routine. I am going to give this another try tomorrow. And I am going to hopefully write in the morning and write at night and kind of get myself back on track, because coming back from Scotland honestly was, I don't want to say difficult, but it took some effort to kind of get back into things. And as you can see, I'm still not fully back into things. I think if I really push hard and do it tomorrow, I can at least get back on track. Now I'm gonna go get a good night's sleep so I can wake up nice and early tomorrow and write. Well, I can finally say that my writing routine is back on track. I had a stellar day today. I wrote for about an hour in the morning, and I wrote for a few hours this afternoon, which I just had the time and I wanted to do it. And then I wrote for about an hour and a half this evening. And I just finished my first pass on chapter 8. So I have rewritten chapter 8 in its entirety. It was very, very difficult. I think I was talking about this last night. Merging these multiple scenes into one chapter was really challenging, and it took so much brain power just to figure out how to do it. And I think the other thing that I struggled with was that these scenes are told from different points of view. And this is the first time that I introduce a different character's POV to the story. And so not only is it switching between POVs that I have to navigate, but it's writing in a new POV. And it's just a little bit added complication to working on chapter 8. But I got through it finally, and that made me really happy. It's a good way to end the night, finishing up a chapter. So now let's see, my total word count so far in this book is 18,800. So I'm almost 20% of the way done with this third draft. So far, I think it's going really well. I'm really happy with the draft. It's much improved. There is definitely still room for improvement, but I'm gonna worry about that a little bit later. Right now, I'm just doing each chapter the best I can. I'm just glad that I was able to get back into the swing of things after my big trip. Yesterday was a little bit of a setback, but today I even made up for that by writing extra, not intentionally, I just did. And I feel confident that moving forward, I will be able to maintain this routine that I've set up for myself. I'm looking forward to continuing my work on draft 3, and I'm very confident that the writing routine I've just reestablished will keep me right on track.